Welcome to the lands of science fiction stories. I wish you a pleasant listening experience.
The Trollan Arena was alive with energy, its metallic stands filled with spectators from across the galaxy. The massive Colosseum was carved into the mountainous terrain of Valdris 9, a planet known for its brutal climate and unforgiving landscapes. The twin suns cast an eerie orange hue over the crowd as they waited in anticipation for the day's spectacle, an unprecedented duel between an alien champion and a human, a rare event that had the whole sector buzzing. Cal Threx, the reigning champion of the Kyrix, stood at the center of the arena, his eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger. His towering, muscular form dwarfed everything around him, the scales on his arms glinting like steel as they caught the light. A deadly spear, glowing with plasma energy, was clutched in his hands, its tip humming with lethal intent. Cal Threx was no ordinary fighter. He had trained for this moment his entire life. His tribe, known as the fiercest in the galaxy, had produced countless warriors, and he was their finest. Across from him, his opponent emerged, Lucian Voss, a human soldier. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, filled with disbelief and skepticism. Humans were often underestimated in the galactic sphere, known more for their cunning and adaptability than brute strength. But Lucian was different. Standing tall, he was clad in sleek tactical armor that hugged his toned frame, enhancing his speed and agility. His eyes, a piercing blue, scanned the arena calmly as he ignored the jeers and taunts echoing from the stands. Lucian's hands, bare of any weapons, flexed as he prepared for the fight. The absence of an obvious weapon was not lost on the crowd, and many scoffed at the sight, assuming it was arrogance or madness. Cal Threx sneered, his deep voice rumbling through the arena's speakers. "You dare face me unarmed, human? Have you accepted your fate already?" Lucian's lips curled into a slight smirk. "Weapons are for those who need them. You'll see soon enough." His voice carried a confidence that silenced some of the crowd's whispers. It was an aura of control, something the Kyrix had not expected from a Deathworlder, a being from Earth, known as a planet that bred resilience like no other. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena, echoing in multiple alien dialects. "Today, we witness a battle of honor. The Kyrix champion, Cal Threx, will face Lucian Voss of Earth. The rules are simple. The fight continues until one combatant is incapacitated or submits." The crowd roared as the signal horn blared, and the fight commenced. Cal Threx lunged forward with the speed of a predator, his plasma spear thrusting towards Lucian's torso with blinding speed. But Lucian moved like liquid, dodging to the side with such fluidity that it seemed as if he had anticipated the attack well before it happened. The spear grazed the air, missing its mark entirely. Cal Threx's eyes widened in disbelief. He had never encountered an opponent who could match his speed. Lucian ducked under another swipe, his movements a dance of calculated precision. His muscles rippled beneath the suit, each step and dodge executed with lethal efficiency. Cal Threx's attacks grew faster, but with every miss, his frustration mounted. "Stand still, human!" he bellowed, rage twisting his features. Lucian only smiled, his eyes locked onto his opponent's movements, reading every muscle twitch and shift in stance. "Patience, Threx. You'll tire yourself out at this rate." His voice was taunting, and it only fueled Cal Threx's anger. The alien warrior charged again, but Lucian sidestepped effortlessly, allowing the plasma spear to slice the air beside him. Suddenly, Lucian was on the offensive. His fists, now wrapped in glowing gauntlets, moved with lightning speed. Each strike was precise, aimed at Cal Threx's vital points. The first blow connected with the alien's ribs, making him stagger. Lucian didn't let up. He landed another strike on Threx's jaw, sending him reeling backward. The crowd gasped. Their champion, undefeated in over 100 duels, was being outmaneuvered by a mere human. Cal Threx roared in pain, his pride wounded as much as his body. But Lucian was relentless. He moved in close, dodging Cal's wild swings and countering with punches that landed with bone-crunching force. Cal Threx stumbled back, his eyes wide with shock as he realized the truth. He was outmatched. Lucian's strikes, though small compared to his own brute force, were like the sting of 1,000 knives, precise and devastating. For the first time, he felt fear of a human who had mastered not just physical combat but the art of breaking an opponent's spirit. Lucian whispered close to his ear, "You shouldn't have underestimated a Deathworlder." With one swift motion, he disarmed Cal Threx, twisting the spear out of his hands and shoving the alien warrior back. Threx fell to one knee, panting, as the arena fell silent. Lucian stood over him, his eyes cold and calculating. Yield, or this ends badly for you. The threat was clear, but Lucian's tone carried a hint of something else, dominance, and an offer that was more than just a challenge. The chapter ends with Cal Threx looking up, his eyes betraying a mix of rage, humiliation, and something darker, perhaps an unexpected attraction to the man who had bested him so easily. The arena watched in stunned silence as the duel's outcome hung in the balance. Cal Threx's muscles ached as he remained on one knee, staring up at the human who had dismantled his pride so effortlessly. The audience, which had been so loud before, was now utterly silent. Lucian's eyes bored into Cal's, the blue depths carrying a strange intensity that made the Kyrix champion's heart pound for reasons he couldn't fully comprehend. Rage and confusion swirled within him, but beneath that, there was something else, something unfamiliar that made his breath catch in his throat. "Submit," Lucian repeated, his tone as cold as the ice-covered mountains of Valdris 9. He leaned in closer, his lips barely a breath away from Cal's ear. "Or show me just how much you can take." Cal Threx's mind raced. He had never faced an opponent who fought like this, calm, precise, and calculating. His entire life, he had dominated with brute strength, overpowering anyone who dared stand against him. But this human, with his quick reflexes and unyielding confidence, had turned the battle into a game. And now, with the human's breath warm against his skin, a shiver ran down his spine. Cal's voice, hoarse and low, rumbled out. "Never." With a surge of adrenaline, he pushed himself up, swinging wildly at Lucian. But the human was already gone, moving like a shadow as he dodged the blow and grabbed Cal's arm, twisting it behind his back with practiced ease. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Lucian forced the Kyrix warrior to his knees, his grip unrelenting. Lucian's voice was a whisper, meant only for Cal. "Your pride blinds you, Threx. I could end this right now, but there's something more interesting about watching you struggle." His grip tightened, sending a sharp pain shooting through Cal's arm. But there was no anger in his tone, only a cold, calculated enjoyment that made Cal's stomach tighten. Lucian's breath was hot against his ear again. "You think this is just a fight, don't you?" His fingers trailed down Cal's arm, lingering as he exerted just enough pressure to keep the alien warrior pinned. "It's not. It's a test, and so far you're failing." Cal's body tensed as he fought the urge to react. The human's taunts were getting under his skin, igniting an unfamiliar heat in his chest. He wanted to lash out, to regain the upper hand, but each time he tried to move, Lucian's hold became tighter, more precise. It was as if the human could read his thoughts, anticipating every move before he even made it. The arena was silent, the audience captivated by the unfolding scene. Many had come to watch the human fail, expecting the Kyrix champion to assert his dominance as he always did. But now they were witnessing something different, something that felt as much like a display of power as it did an intimate dance. Cal gritted his teeth, his pride warring with the realization that he was trapped. Lucian's fingers dug into his shoulder, the touch both painful and strangely electric. "You think you're the only one who knows how to dominate?" Lucian's voice was low, carrying a promise that made Cal's skin prickle. "Humans have their own ways of making others submit." Cal's mind raced as Lucian's words sank in. His body was trapped, his arm twisted painfully behind him, and yet, he felt an undeniable pull, an attraction to the raw power Lucian wielded so effortlessly. The human was smaller, lighter, but his movements were controlled, precise, and every touch felt deliberate. "Stubborn," Lucian remarked with a smirk. "But I can work with that." He released Cal's arm suddenly, stepping back and letting the Kyrix warrior regain his footing. Cal stumbled but caught himself, his eyes locking onto Lucian's with a mix of defiance and curiosity. Cal's breaths were heavy, his chest rising and falling as he tried to steady himself. "Why do you fight like this?" he growled, his voice a rough whisper. "You don't kill, but you don't let go either. What do you want, human?" Lucian's smile was slow, predatory. "Simple. I want you to break." The words were like a challenge, and Cal felt his heart race in response. There was no malice in Lucian's gaze, only a cold intensity that hinted at something darker, something that had nothing to do with the duel they were supposedly engaged in. Cal's fists clenched as he faced Lucian, his body still aching from the blows. But there was a fire in his eyes now, one that refused to be extinguished. "I will not submit," he hissed, but even as he spoke the words, he felt the weight of them. Lucian's presence was suffocating, his calm confidence unsettling. Cal had faced countless warriors, but none had ever gotten under his skin like this. Lucian's gaze never wavered. Then prove it. He raised a hand, gesturing for Cal to attack again. Show me what a Kyrix warrior can really do. Cal roared, launching himself at Lucian with renewed fury. His fists flew, and he moved with a speed and strength that had made him a legend among his people. But once again, Lucian's movements were like water, flowing around each strike with a grace that was almost inhuman. Cal's punches hit nothing but air, and with every miss, his frustration grew. And then, Lucian struck. His fist connected with Cal's midsection, knocking the wind out of him. The impact was like a shockwave, and for a moment, everything went white. Cal's knees buckled, and he found himself on the ground, gasping for breath. Lucian crouched down beside him, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. You feel that? That's the difference between us. You fight with rage, with pride. I fight with precision. His hand rested on Cal's shoulder, fingers digging into the muscle. And that's why you'll always lose. Cal's eyes flashed, a growl escaping his lips. But as he tried to rise, Lucian's hand held him down, the grip firm yet strangely gentle. I could keep you here all day, Threx. But that wouldn't be as fun, would it? The implication in Lucian's voice sent a shiver down Cal's spine. The human was playing with him, pushing his buttons in a way that was both infuriating and, he hated to admit, strangely enticing. The way Lucian moved, the way he spoke, it was as if every action was designed to test Cal's limits, not just physically but mentally. Cal's breath came in ragged pants as he stared up at Lucian, his mind torn between anger and something else, a pull that he couldn't quite understand. You think you've won, he spat, his voice a mix of defiance and something darker. This isn't over. Lucian's smile was slow, almost approving. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. His fingers trailed down Cal's chest, the touch lingering just long enough to send a jolt through the Kyrix warrior's body. I look forward to seeing just how far you can go. The crowd, sensing the tension between the two fighters, remained silent, their eyes fixed on the unfolding scene. As Cal struggled to his feet, his eyes locked onto Lucian's once more, the challenge unspoken but clear. This wasn't just a fight anymore, it was a game, one that had only just begun. Cal Threx staggered to his feet, his body aching from the beating he had endured. The air was thick with tension as the crowd held its breath, anticipating the final clash between the two fighters. Lucian stood a few paces away, arms relaxed at his sides, a calm expression on his face. His eyes never left Cal's, and in them, the Kyrix warrior saw something that made his skin prickle, an unyielding confidence that spoke of absolute control. Cal's mind raced, his thoughts a whirlwind of frustration and a rising, unwanted attraction he couldn't deny. He was no stranger to the rush of battle, the thrill of facing an opponent worthy of his skill. But this was different. Lucian had not only bested him physically but had gotten under his skin, making him feel exposed in a way no other warrior ever had. Lucian's lips curled into a smirk. Still standing? Good. I knew there was more fight left in you. He gestured with a hand, beckoning Cal to attack. But you and I both know how this ends. The question is, will you make it easy or difficult? Cal's fists clenched, his pride refusing to accept defeat. I am a Kyrix champion. I will not be broken by a human. Lucian's smile widened, as if he found the defiance amusing. We'll see. Cal roared and charged, using every ounce of strength and speed he had left. His fists flew, aiming to land a blow that would wipe the smug grin off Lucian's face. But the human was faster, always one step ahead, dodging and weaving as if he could predict every move. Cal's attacks grew wilder, more desperate, but Lucian remained untouchable, a phantom just out of reach. Finally, as Cal threw a heavy punch, Lucian caught his wrist mid-swing. The human's grip was ironclad, and before Cal could react, Lucian twisted his arm, forcing him down. The arena floor met Cal's knees once again, and this time, he felt the weight of Lucian's presence as the human pressed against him, holding him in place. Lucian's breath was hot against his ear. You've got spirit, Threx. But spirit alone isn't enough. His fingers tightened, and Cal felt a shiver run down his spine as the pressure sent pain shooting through his shoulder. You're strong, but strength is nothing without control. Cal's chest heaved, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to fight back, to push the human away. But Lucian's hold was unbreakable, and despite the pain, there was an unfamiliar thrill running through him, an undeniable pull that made his skin tingle. Lucian's voice was a low whisper, just loud enough for Cal to hear. "You're going to submit, whether you like it or not." His tone was firm, commanding, and it sent a chill down Cal's spine. "And when you do, you'll know it was always meant to be this way." Cal gritted his teeth, his pride warring with the realization that he was utterly at Lucian's mercy. But even as he fought against it, the weight of his failure crashed over him. He had never felt so powerless, and yet in that moment, there was a strange sense of relief, a sense that he didn't have to fight anymore. Lucian's hand slid down, resting against the back of Cal's neck. The touch was firm but not painful, and it sent a wave of heat through the Kyrix warrior's body. "There's no shame in acknowledging when someone is stronger," Lucian murmured, his voice softening just a fraction. "Especially when you know you'll never beat them." Cal's head hung low, his breathing heavy as he felt the truth of Lucian's words. His body ached, his pride was in tatters, and all he could feel was the presence of the human above him, so close and unyielding. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the pull that had been building inside him, the attraction to the power and dominance that Lucian exuded. With a shuddering breath, Cal whispered the words he had sworn he would never say. "I yield." The crowd gasped, and for a moment, the arena was filled with stunned silence. The Kyrix champion, the undefeated warrior who had dominated the arena for years, had just submitted to a human. It was a moment no one had expected, and the shock rippled through the spectators like a wave. Lucian's smile was slow and satisfied. "Good," he said, his voice carrying a note of finality. "You've learned your place." He released his grip, stepping back to allow Cal the chance to rise. But as Cal got to his feet, the weight of what he had just done settled on his shoulders. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mixture of disbelief and awe. Lucian's eyes remained locked on Cal's, and there was a hint of approval in his gaze. "You've proven you can fight," he said. "But submission, that's the real test of strength." He extended a hand, offering it to Cal as a gesture of respect and finality. Cal hesitated, the humiliation of his defeat still raw. But as he looked into Lucian's eyes, he saw no mockery there, only a challenge. The human had bested him, not just in combat but in spirit. And for the first time, Cal felt a strange sense of peace. He had faced a true opponent, and though he had lost, he had found something he didn't know he needed, something that went beyond battle. Cal reached out and took Lucian's hand, the grip firm and unyielding. As Lucian pulled him up, their eyes met, and in that moment, Cal knew this was only the beginning. This human had changed everything, not just for him but for the entire arena. The crowd erupted in applause, a thunderous roar that echoed through the arena as they acknowledged the end of an era. Cal Threx, once undefeated, had been humbled. And the human, Lucian Voss, had shown the galaxy that Deathworlders were not to be underestimated. Lucian nodded to Cal, his expression calm. "You fought well," he said simply. "But remember, strength isn't just about winning. It's about knowing when to accept a greater power." Cal's eyes burned with a new determination as he watched Lucian turn and walk away, the human's presence lingering like a shadow. He knew that he had lost, but he also knew that this was not the end, only the start of a new journey, one where he would learn what true strength really meant. As the twin suns of Valdres 9 dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the arena, Cal Threx stood tall, accepting his defeat with a newfound understanding. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a flicker of something that went beyond respect, an attraction to the man who had bested him, and a desire to learn more about the human who had changed everything. The chapter and the story closed with Cal watching Lucian disappear into the shadows, knowing that his life, and the galaxy's perception of humans, would never be the same again.